I read Death March to Mount Hakkoda, written by Jiro Nida. Now I'm going to use clips from the film itself just to help me retell this a little bit. So this is a documentary novel that I read and was translated to English. In summary, the story follows two leaders of two regiments within the Japanese military, the 5th and the 31st. Now, the higher-ups ultimately decide that there is a threat of Russia attacking in 1902 due to their superior knowledge of winter and winter combat because they're beefing over a couple things. Now, the Russians would ultimately then have the upper hand against Japan. And so these two leaders are tasked with conducting an exercise where they will traverse Mount Hakkoda. However, they will traverse it in a different order. See, they wanted to make it almost like a competition. So the 31st set out. This involved getting research during their journey, reporting to the head on the weather patterns, how many steps it would take, how to keep rice from freezing, even water from your canteen from getting solid. The 31st Regiment relied heavily on the use of local guides. There were these towns scattered around the mountains, and they had intended on relying on them for navigation. They would go into town, request lodging overnight, and then in the morning, take a few guides to take them along, during which they would face a few fierce storms. Some had perished, but that number also steadily climbed. Jump to the perspective of the 5th Regiment. They had left a day after, but also from the other side of the traversal. They had to start from one of the hardest parts of the mountain traversal. As they continued, what seemed like decent weather when they first started suddenly changed to some of the lowest observed Japanese historical weather, negative 42 degrees Celsius. This blizzarding left men hallucinating, freezing to death, and some men had even tried taking off their clothes and jumping into the river to swim for help. The incident had resulted in 193 men freezing to death, with the recovery unit recovering 11 total men. For my thoughts on the book, overall, I think it was pretty good. Jiro Nida was able to frame the book in almost a light way that continually wanted me to turn the page. Now, not to judge a book by its cover, but it was also interesting to see the portrayal of how the chain of command worked, especially in Japan. The two leaders did not particularly want to do the traversal, but were required to by their captain. Further, they couldn't really raise any concerns. This was dealt by going to each other's houses and to talk about their situation. Further, the book is called Death March to Mount Hakkoda. And their leader is asking them to march there. There's got to be some sort of dramatic irony there. I kind of felt like the Interstellar guy at the start of the book. No! Overall, it was a pretty enjoyable book for me. I think similar to The Wager in that regard, it was kind of a documentary novel, maybe with a little bit less character as The Wager, but one day I might get around to picking up a fiction book. Overall, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I don't know too much about books, so really take that rating with a grain of salt. I think that is worth picking up. Thank you for watching.